Imagine growing up in a family with mild Christian values, going to Catholic school, yet never really believing in all of it. That was me. I found some of the Bible stories intriguing, sure. But as a kid and later as a teen, I was fascinated by the mystical, the paranormal, the strange and unexplained. Around the year 2003, well before smartphones and social media made everything accessible, I was obsessed with ancient aliens, conspiracies, ghosts, witchcraft, you name it. But despite this passion, I had never actually experienced anything supernatural until my family decided to move. We were close to buying what seemed like the perfect house, but then my grandmother came to see it, and things took a strange turn. While I darted around, exploring empty rooms and imagining my future bedroom, my grandmother got an uneasy feeling about the second floor of the house. She worried about fire, safety, especially for me and my sibling. Then, as we drove away, my mom casually mentioned something chilling. She thought she saw a little girl staring out the window on the second floor, curious. My parents did some digging. They found out that many years ago, there had been a fire on that very floor, and a young girl had died in the flames. Spooky, right? But that was not the deal breaker. They discovered a roach infestation, and that was enough to make them walk away. Ironically, the house we ended up moving into had its own paranormal welcome. Weeks after moving, the previous owner came by with a message. Her mother had died in the house and occasionally appeared to the family, but she was friendly, she said, a guardian of the home. I made a best friend down the street, and during one of our first get-togethers, my friend's family dropped a bombshell. They had lived in that first haunted house I mentioned for a decade, and they didn't just see one ghost. They saw to one a little girl, and the other a malevolent old man. The oldest brother still wouldn't sleep with the lights off. 3 older brothers became victims of terrifying encounters that scarred them deeply. And there I was, still skeptical, still hungry for proof. Fast forward to my 15th Christmas. I got a Ouija boarded doorway to the unknown. I didn't immediately use it. It sat quietly in its box. But one day, curious and a little reckless, I asked a friend to use it with me in the basement, the perfect spooky setting. He chickened out, leaving me alone. I thought nothing would happen. I placed the planchette down, asked questions, and nothing. Disappointed, I packed it away. But the next few days, strange things began. Lights flickered. Doors creaked open on their own. Our dogs acted weird. Objects moved. And I wasn't scared, I was fascinated. Then, the first real apparition appeared. I was walking from the kitchen to the living room when out of the corner of my eye, I spotted a woman in a pink dress. It was my mother. But when I got to the living room, my mom was there with my dad, sitting on the couch, not wearing pink. The ghost was the previous owner's mother, a protective spirit watching over the house. From there, the hauntings escalated. Insomnia took hold. Doors slammed relentlessly. Dolls spoke with no batteries. Lights exploded 4 times, one bulb shattering right as I thought about Harry Potter books. And the closet door, no matter how I barred it, thrust itself open, shaking with an unseen force. Intent on bravery, I slept in the basement with my little dog, Baby, who suddenly growled fiercely at something I couldn't see. Suddenly, I was pinned down. Force pushed me into the couch, crushing me with cold terror. The air was filled with hatred, pure evil. I ran upstairs screaming for my family. They didn't wake. I was alone. That night, the darkness repeated its torment, holding me captive again and again. But in desperation, I cried out, praying to Jesus. And just like that, the nightmare stopped. For 15 years, silence. The cursed Ouija board. My parents tried burning it, it wouldn't catch fire. It was only tossed into the trash and carried away by a dump truck. And after that, no more hauntings. This story isn't just about ghosts or demons, it's about the terrifying power of the unknown and the light that can push back the darkness. So, if you ever come across a Ouija board, just walk away.
It was supposed to be the ultimate weekend getaway. Just me, my cousin Alex, and our 2 friends heading deep into Washington's wilderness for some camping at the infamous Cedarwood Lake. We packed my truck on a crisp Friday afternoon, buzzing with excitement about fishing, grilling, and escaping the chaos of city life. The drive was long, twisting through dense forests and winding mountain roads, until we reached the lake just as twilight began to paint the sky in fiery reds and golds. Cedarwood Lake was hidden, surrounded by towering pines and shrouded in thick mist, making it feel like we had stepped into another world. We set up camp close to the water's edge, the fire roaring as we roasted sausages. Alex regaled us with chilling local legends, ghost stories that made the hairs on my neck stand up. That night felt alive, electric. But as midnight drew near, something felt off. We crawled into our tents, Alex and I sharing one, our friends in another nearby. The forest is eerily silent. No rustle of animals, no whisper of wind. Just an unsettling stillness. Almost asleep, I heard it. Slow, deliberate footsteps crunching on gravel by the lake shore. "Alex, do you hear that?" I hissed, heart pounding. He grunted drowsily, but the sound grew louder, closer until it circled our camp. I peeled back the tent flap, scanning in fading firelight with my flashlight, and there it stood, a tall, gaunt figure draining the night of safety, its head turned unnaturally, too smoothly, like some nightmare puppet. I slammed the flap shut and shook Alex awake. "Someone's here." We listened with bated breath. The footsteps swirled right beside our tents, fabric brushing nylon. Alex grabbed the flashlight and ripped open the tent. Nothing, just the dark forest and the whispering lake. Our friends appeared, groggy but alert. We warned them, but they whispered, probably laughing nervously at our fear. Minutes ticked by, with only the crackling fire. Slowly the sounds ceased. We reassured ourselves it was some animal, then drifted into uneasy sleep. Before dawn, chaos shattered the quiet, splashing, thrashing, something massive fighting the lake's pull. Alex bolted up, flashlight in hand, sweeping across the water. For one heart-stopping second, I glimpsed it, a pale face breaking the surface, eyes wide open, staring straight at us. We didn't wait to figure it out. At first light, we packed up every last thing and raced back down the winding roads, shaken to our cores. Days later, Alex sent me a chilling article. Authorities found a man's body in Cedarwood Lake, missing for 3 weeks, decomposed beyond recognition, but witnesses said his eyes stayed open, just like the face we saw that night.
Some ghosts don't just haunt houses, they haunt families. My story begins not as a curious teen, but as a scared little child, 5 or 6 years old. Every night, just as I was about to fall asleep, I saw him, the bloody man. I couldn't see his face, maybe because he didn't have one. But I remember the bloody bandages wrapped around his head, the hospital gown stained with death. He walked slowly, endlessly, up and down the stairs of my house. I didn't scream. I wasn't even scared. Something told me he was there, but I shouldn't be afraid. Maybe it was because I was too young to understand the terror. Years later, I learned who he was, my uncle. Beaten to death with a baseball bat, taken to the hospital with a brain swollen like a balloon, and dead within days. I saw him almost 30 times before my mom and I moved to my grandfather's house for a while. Then when I was 12 or 13, we moved back and the hauntings didn't stop. One evening, I was showing my little sister how to play Sonic the Hedgehog. Suddenly, a clear, calm female voice whispered her name. She got up and answered, "Yes, ma'am," to no one visible. It was my grandmother's voice, the same grandmother who had been dead for 10 years. My sister didn't realize the voice came from right at our feet, not downstairs. I was frozen in fear. And that was only the beginning. At sleepovers, my bedroom door would start shaking violently, as if someone or something was trying to get in. But every time we opened it, no one was there. Accompanying the shaking were terrifying claw-like scratches that raked down the door's surface. My friends and I would huddle in the corner of the bed, terrified beyond belief. If you're counting, that's 5 witnesses to the bloody man and the shaking door me, my sister, and 3 close friends. But it only gets stranger. We eventually sold the house and moved away, but the bad memories lingered. My mother told me that near the end of living there, my grandfather, who had suffered multiple mini-strokes and was wheelchair-bound, started acting strange. He claimed, "Your brothers are still here up and down those goddamn stairs." Up and down, up and down. He'd seen the bloody man too, his own son. Years after selling the house, the new owners weren't free from the haunting either. The man who bought it saw my uncle at the gym, dead eyes piercing through reality, demanding to know what was in the house. His wife and 2 kids also reported ghostly sightings, with shadows and reflections haunting the mirrors. They even got rid of their mirrors, hoping to stop it. But for me, the scariest part is knowing that this spirit, this presence, has affected not just me, but generations of my family and strangers alike. The bloody man is real. He's more than just a ghost story. He's our legacy of sorrow and fear. So, the next time you hear footsteps in an empty house or see a shadow move where no one should be, remember, some hauntings never leave.
High school, those years where everything seems like an adventure, and the unknown calls like a siren's song. For me and my best friend Mark, that call led us to some of the creepiest places you can imagine. Abandoned houses, forgotten barns, and even a mysterious underground gas station hidden away from prying eyes. But we craved something more, ... Something that would truly test our nerve. That somewhere was called Little People Village, an eerie tiny stone village in the woods, built by a forgotten artisan with an unsettling story attached. Legend had it, anyone who sat on the creepy stone throne in the village was cursed to die within 7 years. Of course, being teenagers, we weren't exactly deterred by cursed legends. In fact, I actually sat on the throne braving whatever fate awaited. Now, before our full quest for the village even began, we found an easier target, an abandoned nursing home, or more like a hospice care complex. More than a dozen visits, sneaking through broken windows into dark basements and creepy corridors became our routine. The place was huge, with murals I swear looked like something from Cold War Eastern Europe. The basement alone gave me the creeps beyond those stages, and the remnants of what felt like centuries of despair. One day, we brought realistic BB guns just for the thrill and started shooting empty cans in the central hub of the building. We had been exploring for 40 minutes when suddenly heavy footsteps thundered above us, a giant of a man, by the sound of it, just stomping down the hallway. Instinctively, we split up to corner him. I took one set of stairs. Mark took another ... but no one was there. It was as if the man who had made all that noise vanished into thin air. We searched every nook and cranny, but no hiding spot could fit a man of that size without us seeing him. The building felt alive with something else. As we turned towards our truck, parked discreetly in the lot, we stopped dead in our tracks. In the second-floor window by the stairs, we saw Ita's face, just a floating, disembodied head, looking right at us. Grey, gaunt, almost ghostly, without a body to hold it. No human could have disappeared after making that much noise. That night, leaving the nursing home, we knew we had stumbled onto something beyond explanation, but the story doesn't end there. Right near town sat the Undercliff Sanitarium and Asylum, shut down decades ago, yet still shrouded in shadows and mystery. Known for housing troubled children and mental patients, it was surrounded by rumors of hauntings. Mark and I tried to be cautious, parking behind one of the auxiliary buildings to avoid the numerous security cameras. Our exploration was short. When we returned to Mark's truck after checking for entry points, we found every door, window, toolbox, even the glove box flung wide open. There was no sign of forced entry, and nothing was missing. The place was deep in the woods. No one could have done this so fast and disappeared without a trace. Terrified, we left immediately. Later, researching, we learned that decades ago, a brutal murderous stabbing had taken place right where we parked. It was as if the past was reaching out to remind us it wasn't buried. Then, one chilling night, after a school trip to an abandoned village in Spain, strange things continued. The quiet town of Granadilla, submerged partially underwater, was where ghosts allegedly roamed. Our counselors told stories of tragic lovers and spirits as a night car drove slowly down an empty road twice, then thrice, with identical passengers stepping out and staring our way, faces unseen. The village gate was shut tight, safe, but we knew something was watching. Back home, my sister and I faced our own terror. A ghost known as the Bloody Man haunted our old house, an uncle who died violently, visible to us at bedtime, his face always bandaged and bloodied. He wasn't alone. My sister heard voices and saw spirits at our feet, while I witnessed doors shaking violently during sleepovers, scratched by invisible claws. 5 of us saw these events, the family and 3 friends, and even years later, new owners saw the same ghost. These experiences reshaped how I saw the world, no longer just stories, but real encounters with the unknown. So, whether it was an abandoned hospice home, an asylum with secrets, or a haunted family house, each place held its own story, its own terror. What lurks in the shadows may never fully be explained, but we know this: some doors, once opened, change everything.
I used to work the night shift at a little 24-hour corner shop tucked away in a sleepy English town. Most nights were quiet, filled only with familiar faces, truck drivers passing through, nurses finishing late shifts, or students stocking up on snacks for exams. The calm between 2 and 4 a.m. was almost peaceful, until one night changed everything. It was exactly 3:15 a.m. I was restocking the crisps aisle when the door chimed softly. I looked up and saw a man enter. He was tall, dressed in a threadbare gray suit, clutching a battered leather briefcase. The odd thing, it had been relentlessly raining outside, yet he was completely dry, not a single drop on his clothes or umbrella. I called out a casual good evening, but he didn't answer. Slow and deliberate, he walked straight down the aisle, his eyes fixed ahead with a blank, frozen expression. After a tense minute, he appeared at the counter with a bottle of water. I scanned it, hoping to ease the silence. Mad weather out there, huh? Tried. Nothing. His lips curved into a strange, steady smile, but his eyes, they didn't move. I handed over the bottle, took it silently, his gaze locked onto mine like some hypnotic stare. I turned away for a second to prepare his receipt. When I looked back, he was gone. Confused, I froze. The automatic doors hadn't opened. I immediately checked the CCTV footage. The video showed him entering, walking up to the counter, then ... nothing. No exit, no disappearance on screen. Just a sudden break in the frames, like he vanished into thin air. Strangest part, the following morning the manager arrived and found a trail of wet footprints leading from the counter all the way to the staff locker room. The trail stopped abruptly right in front of my locker. I quit that night. Growing up near Redwood National Park in Northern California, my brother Liam and I spent every summer roaming those colossal forests. The towering trees, ancient and wise, made us feel like we lived in a different world, a magical sanctuary from everything else. But that summer of 2010 shattered everything we believed. We had a mission that day: find an old waterfall marked on a worn-out map, a hidden gem deep off the usual trails. The forest was thick, sunlight barely piercing the dense canopy. Noon came and went as we wove through twisted roots and fallen trunks, until we stumbled into a clearing. Ferns carpeted the earth like a green ocean, broken only by scattered branches. Then the air changed. A heavy, disgusting stench filled our nostrils, rotten, damp, like decaying animal fur mixed with earth. Liam joked nervously. Guess something died nearby, but something else caught our attention: the silence. No chirps, no buzzing insects. No rustling. Dead silence. That's when we saw it. Behind one of the massive redwoods, crouched low to the ground, was a silhouette nearly blending with the shadows. It wasn't any animal we knew. Its limbs were unnaturally long and crooked, its skin an unsettling pale gray, stretched so tight over its skeletal frame it almost looked translucent. At first it seemed busy with something fiddling with its hands, maybe feeding. But it stopped abruptly, turning its head with a horrifying slowness, too deliberate to be natural. We saw its face. No eyes. Just hollow, dark sockets, black voids where eyes should have been. Its mouth pulled wide into a grin that stretched endlessly like some grotesque mask. Liam froze, whispering, "Don't move." Then it stood up. The creature towered over us 7 feet or more, its movements jerky but deliberate. The ground cracked beneath its feet, the sharp crunch echoing like a gunshot in the silent forest. That sound shattered our paralysis. We ran faster than I've ever run, darting through the mossy undergrowth, hearts pounding like drums. We didn't look back until we burst out onto the main trail, gasping for breath. And that's when we saw it far behind us, standing tall among the trees like a ghost, watching, waiting. We told our parents what happened. They dismissed us. Maybe bears, perhaps shadows cast by light, they said, but Liam and I knew the truth. I returned once more to those woods, drawn by a mixture of fear and curiosity. It was like stepping into a different dimension. Certain parts were utterly silent, no birds, no insects, no breeze, just a heavy, bone-deep quiet, and I still refused to go near those places.
Don't forget to subscribe because there are more stories like this, waiting to be told.